So I got everyone muted when they joined, but I don't know.
That's good. And then they could just, I mean, could they just click on mute?
Yeah, I think so. How's your day?
It was fine.
Yeah.
I watched a family sitcom on Netflix, all 8 episodes.
What show is it?
Oh, you know the Big Show, the wrestler?
Oh, dude, yeah. I just saw the trailer for that. It looks crazy.
It's like a Disney Channel show, but it's like very good.
You watched all 8 episodes?
Yeah, all 8.
Let people in, and then I'm gonna say that they can like unmute themselves because I want to hear them laughing, you know. But yeah. I guess like in between each story, I'll just like take questions from the chat, or if people have questions or something. Like I only have like 3 or 4 stories prepared, so like in between we just do whatever.
That's plenty. What time we let people in? 8?
Yeah. Let people in at 8. I'm gonna sit down tonight. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. We have a very, very, very special show for you tonight. I'm doing all like dating stories. I'm doing dating stories and hooking up stories, and I'm glad you guys are here because most of the RSVPs for tonight have my last name, so that could be weird. I think I am related to most of the people that are going to be here, so I'm happy you guys are here right now. And by the way, to kill time, I have if the stories go off the rails, I have a box of dares I'm going to go to. These are 100 sexy prompts for couples, and I haven't seen my girlfriend in a month. She went home to Delaware because it's safer for her there because she has asthma, so she had to leave New York. So I just have this box of dares by myself. So we might just kill some time right now. Why not? I'll do one right now. We'll go through it right now. And a lot of these I can't really do. Let me blindfold you and touch you seductively with a mystery object. Let's see if you can guess what it is. Not gonna do that on my own right now. Here, what time is it? We're gonna start. Hold on. Yeah, we're gonna go to the box of dares in a little bit, maybe. I went through a lot. There's not a lot you can do on your own with these box of dares. So welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Mike Lemme. This is my bedroom in Brooklyn. We're doing things differently tonight. Tonight, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna tell you some stories. I love London. I go there. I try to go there once or twice a year. And every time I go to London, I try to stay in the same neighborhood I stayed in my first time I was there. The Airbnb I was staying at my first time in London was a 5-minute walk from the comedy club I was performing at, which was a 5-minute walk from a party I went to. Second night in London ever, I got paid to do comedy and I ended up going to a party with this other American comedian after the show. And I had so much fun. I got drunk because everyone was just giving me drinks for free because they wanted to just hear me talk and like hear my accent or whatever, right? Like my friends that I came with told me they were leaving like 6 times. And I was like, I don't care, dude. I live here now. I'm not leaving. There is magic in the air. If I leave right now, nothing good is going to happen. And by magic in the air, I mean I made eye contact with a woman and she made eye contact back. So now I'm going to stay here for hours and see what happens. So I'm drunk, all right? I'm hammered. My friend leaves, and this woman I made eye contact with, let's call her Alex, because a note from last week was that I need to add names to my stories. So we're going to call her Alex. That's not a real name. Doesn't matter. Right? She's this badass British chick. She's covered in tattoos. She's got dyed hair. She's got Doc Martens on, those cool boots. She's smoking cigarettes, and it turns out she lived at that apartment. We start making out. We go into her room. We start taking our clothes off. I'm looking like a sexy glass of milk, like I always do. She starts taking her clothes off. She's covered in tattoos, and she has nipple rings. We're making out, we're fooling around, but all of a sudden that American Mike starts to get into my head. I lose confidence. We go to bed. Nothing happens. The next morning, I wake up.
No.
And I start doing my morning routine of apologizing, saying, I'm sorry for what happened. I feel bad. Like, this doesn't happen. I got uncomfortable. I felt anxious. And Alex, there's no polite way of saying this. She grabbed me, like, and we started going at it, right? We started having sex for about 2 minutes, and then I started to feel like I was about to finish, and I wasn't ready to have a child. Okay, especially not. Listen, even if she wanted to keep it or she wanted to get rid of it, either way, I have to go to an ATM, and I don't want to get those international transaction fees, right? So I stopped and I said sorry. I think I was about to be done, and she didn't give a fuck at all. She got a text from one of her roommates saying that to let them into the apartment. She had to go let one of her roommates in. She gets out of bed and I just lay there. Okay, I don't smoke cigarettes, but I wanted to at this point. I wish I had a cigarette. And I just lay there naked in this chick's bed for 10 minutes. She doesn't come back. 20 minutes, she doesn't come back. 30 minutes, she doesn't come back. So I get dressed, I walk out into her hallway, and she's just watching TV with her roommate. And she looks at me and she says, I thought you left. I felt dirty, I felt used, and I loved every single minute of it. It was fantastic. And it's never happened before when she just grabbed me and we started having sex, and like there's no condoms, there's no questions. I did not consent verbally, but I could see myself smiling and like a nipple ring, so that was cool, right? So she's like, I thought you left. I didn't know how to leave, so I just gave her like an awkward hug. Just like I just hugged her, and then I walked 5 minutes back to my Airbnb. The guy I was staying with, Ari, was having brunch with some of his friends, and when I walked in, he was like, "Mike, you didn't come home last night. What happened?" And I told him I got paid to do comedy. I got laid after the show, and all of his friends started cheering for me like I won gold in the Olympics. It was fantastic. We ate lunch together, and like we just hung out. There was never a round two with Alex, but we became Facebook friends, and we still keep in touch. And I keep in touch with everyone that I stayed with during that first trip to London. And I like going back to that neighborhood because I got to do comedy there. I made a lot of friends. There was a spirit in the air, and it felt good. That was the first story. I think we did it. We got through it. If you guys have any feedback, any questions.
Both nipples?
One nipple. I'm giving too much away. I feel like I'm doing too much. One nipple ring, and I asked her why she didn't get the other one pierced, and she said, because it fucking hurt. One of the, these stories tonight, like last week, a few of my friends that came to the show sent me a message saying that these shows are like a fun distraction. So I'm kind of treating these shows the opposite of how I normally treat my comedy, and that I'm hoping you have fun. That's not. Story number two. I used to tell this story a lot on stage. This used to be like my big closer, and then I stopped telling it because I started to feel bad about the way I was representing the person in the story. I used to describe this story as like the weirdest date I've ever been on. And I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I realize what I thought was the weirdest date I've ever been on usually isn't. This is a story about one of the most comfortable dates I've ever been on. One of the most comfortable, calmest, most relaxing dates that got a little out of hand, but we dealt with it properly, okay? This is a story about the time I went on a second date to an S&M party. Again, I apologize to everyone in here who has the same last name that I do. So I apologize for that. I went on a second date to an S&M party. The second date is the best date to go on to go to like a kink party, you know? First date, you don't know each other well enough. Third date, maybe you know each other too well. Second date is the perfect time to do the whips and chains, okay? Second date is peak. So let's call her Sarah. I was getting drinks with Sarah, and Sarah is my type. You know, she's confident. She knows what she wants. She knows who she is. She knows what her goals are. She knows what she's working on. She knows what she wants to fix about herself. And if you don't like that, fuck you. She doesn't have time for you. I like that a lot. Okay, I like people that just know who they are. So Sarah and I are having drinks, first date, and somehow the conversation comes to like what turns us on, what our kinks are. And she asked me, she's like, Mike, what are you into like in bed? What are you into sexually? And I gave the classic dude answer. I said, well, what are you into? Because I could be into a lot of things. And I'm not gonna be the one who says it first. Like I want you to say what she's into, what you're into. And I'm like, yeah, I'm into that too. Why not? Like she's into rough stuff. Like she's into like getting choked and getting tied up and getting spanked. And she asked me, she's like, Mike, would you be into doing that with me? I said, yeah. Yeah. Who's the idiot that would say no? Like, even if you have no experience in that, why would you say no to that? Yeah, I was a single dude in New York City. Of course I'm down with that. Why not? Our first date ends. I think she's never going to talk to me again. Like, I think that's like, it's too good to be true, right? A few days later, I'm at work, and I get a text from Sarah telling me about a kink party happening that Friday. And she asked me if I want to go, and I said, yeah. I said, absolutely, I'm down. Again, why would I say no to that? And then she asked me this question that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Do you own a ping pong paddle? And at this point in my life, I didn't even own a bed. Like this was the air mattress years. I didn't have a bed. But I told her, yeah, I have a ping pong paddle. On my lunch break, I went to Modell's, like a sporting goods store here in New York City, and I bought this ping pong paddle. I put this $10 ping pong paddle on my credit card, and yes, I still have it. I haven't used it since, but I still have it. Of course I still have it. Like, you wouldn't be surprised if you went to like Denzel's house and he had his Oscar still. You know, this is a trophy right here. Friday night comes along. I have the ping pong paddle in my jacket and one of my pockets. The rest of my pockets are just full of condoms, right? just in case. I have a ping pong paddle in my jacket and just condoms. And I made one more sex gives me anxiety. That's a theme in all my stories. It is what it is. A few years ago, I started to realize that I could get rid of that anxiety by buying bodega boner pills. That's what I would do. Bodega boner pills. If you don't know what a bodega is, it's a convenience store, but much better because you can buy random pills behind the counter. So at one point, I was walking around Manhattan with a jacket full of condoms, a ping pong paddle, and a bodega boner pill. I looked like I was about to get laid or play the most intense game of ping pong of all time. I get to the bar, Sarah's there, and we go over ground rules. You know, she tells you what I can do, what I can't do, and she's like, I'm supposed to be the dominant one, but she's in control of this whole situation. This is her plan. I'm listening to her. I'm smiling. I'm nodding, doing what I'm supposed to do. Right? She goes to the bathroom to get changed. I pop my steroids. And we go to the party, like the 8th floor of this like fancy apartment building in Chelsea. We get there, we knock on the door, and this woman opens the door, right? This older, adorable woman is like working the door. She's taking the money, and like picture your mom's best friend, but like with a collar on and like covered in leather. Like that was this woman. She's taking the money, right? Sarah and I pay the money to get in. This woman opens the curtain. And the first thing I see is just like a bunch of old white men on leashes, like getting dragged around by these hot women, these hot young women dragged around these old white men, like old white men. Like everyone I saw looked like Jeff Sessions, Lindsey Graham, Robert Kraft. It looked like an after party for the Republican National Convention. That's what I'm saying. old white dudes. And Sarah and I are like freaked out. We were kind of like, should we be here? But we already spent the money. We didn't want to ask for the money back. So we walked in. And the apartment's huge. It's this huge, huge apartment. And luckily, we got to a spot where there's like people our age there. So we felt more comfortable. Part of the apartment's broken up into different sections. there's a section over there for like tying the person up. There's a section over there for like pouring hot wax on each other. There's like private sections in the back, so you can go there and question your decisions. But right in the center of the room, there's a bench. The bench is there. By the way, there's like Lysol wipes everywhere. It's like one of the cleanest places I've ever been to. Like one of the cleanest parties. Like everything's getting cleaned down. They have a whole team of people like just wiping everything down, right? So right in the center of the room, there's a bench. And like one person is supposed to lay on the bench, and the other person is supposed to like spank that person, and everyone at the party watches you. Like there's a bench in the middle, surrounded by like 25 to 30 people, like some gladiator shit, and everyone's cheering, they're ranting, they're having fun. Like it is, people are getting into it, and Sarah is like, I want to do that. I think, did I start out by calling her Sarah? Like, Sarah's the name I gave her, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I keep, yeah, it's not a real name. It's my first time trying to add names to my stories. I'm like, I think I called her Sarah, yeah. So Sarah's like, I want to do that. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. But we spent some time like getting adjusted to it, and then we got in line for the bench. Like we were waiting for a ride at fucking Six Flags or something, right? And so we get in line, and I'm asking her like basic second date questions, like, so where are you from? Oh, you know, what do your parents do? So we're in line, and all of a sudden it's our turn to use the bench. It's like 25, 30 people like gathered around. Sarah walks up like a fucking boss, and she wipes it, she cleans it up, and she lays on the bench. And now it's my turn to like to perform, right? So I wind up and I do my first spank or whatever. Nothing. Nobody reacts. No one, like the crowd's silent. Sarah's silent. I get nothing. I do it again. I wind up. I give it my all. Right. Nothing. All of a sudden, this skinny dude, skinnier than me, with a mustache. This guy with a mustache wearing a leotard walks up to me. Leotard, mustache, skinny dude. Think like Prince, but like at an S&M party. Okay. Walks up to me and he says, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." And he walks up to Sarah and he says, "Sweetie, do you mind if I try?" And
Ooh.
Sarah, I don't know if this is what she actually said, but I'm pretty sure I heard her say, "Hell fucking yeah." I'm pretty sure. So leotard dude takes, like, he kind of like he doesn't push me out of the way, but he just takes my spot, and he cups his hand and he smacks Sarah's ass like money's gonna come out of it. And the crowd goes wild. Like they cheer for him like he won like gold medal at the Olympics. Like they cheer like I've never heard an audience cheer for me in my life. And then he disappears into the crowd, never to be seen again. And I asked Sarah, I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Use the fucking paddle." We spent like 2 hours at this party. We had a blast. It was like the best second date I've ever been on. We had a great time. We met a bunch of people who I've never spoken to after. And we left the party and we got Taco Bell. That's how the story ends. We got Taco Bell after the S&M party. Then we went home and we hooked up because I was on steroids. First and last time I had a massive erection at Taco Bell. Any questions?
Hey, I'm wondering, at a party like this, did you feel like you needed to be drunk or to be on drugs to feel comfortable in that environment, or do you feel like it was
we were both relatively sober. Like I was drunker during the London thing. They had like a bar area, but it was like in an apartment, so it was like folding tables set up, it was like the drink section of like a middle school dance. It was so weird. Like they
Were
tipped
most
up,
people
like,
drunk? Were most people
I
drunk?
was pretty sober, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's like I'm very comfortable in uncomfortable situations, you know? Like I'm very uncomfortable in comfortable situations. That's just who I am. And whenever I show up in the town, I hope the person I'm staying with is nice because I could use like a friend to tell me about the city. Because like I don't do any research before I travel to a new city. The only research I do is I book the flight and then I try to find a place to stay. And this story is about how I got this power adapter. Fascinating, I know. This is another prop that I should bring with me to every comedy show. It looks like somebody could use at an S&M party, actually. So this is a power adapter you can use in Italy and probably some other countries. So this is a story about the time I went to Italy. Yeah, like you never buy a power adapter when things are going well. Like I really needed this. You only buy a power adapter when you get to a new country and you're like, oh, I am not prepared to be here at all. Okay, I can't even charge my fucking phone, right? So I got this power adapter from the person I was staying with. I was staying at this guy's apartment. Let's call him Marco because that's close enough to his real name. And I'm not worried if he finds out about this because, like, you know, he deserves credit for this story. Marco picked me up at the train station. I got to Rome, and Marco told me that it'd be difficult to find his apartment by just walking there, especially because my phone only worked on Wi-Fi. So he said, I'll meet you at the train station, right? I get to Rome, and I don't see Marco anywhere. So I go and I stop at this cafe. I get a pastry, one of the best pastries I've ever had. It was so good. I went back to that cafe every single day I was in Rome. It was delicious. I'm eating my pastry, and I hear someone say, Michael, and I look up, it's Marco. Marco's right there. Marco is standing there. He looks just like he does in his profile picture. He's got a nice smiling, welcome face. He says, welcome to Rome. I'm happy you're here. He takes my bag, and we start walking to his apartment. And Marco's like an interesting dude. He doesn't want to live in Rome. He doesn't like Rome. He's only in Rome because he has his job there. His work is in Rome, so that's why he's there. His work is tough. He doesn't have a lot of free time, so he only gets to make friends by having like travelers stay on his couch. Like he offers his couch for travelers, but also so he's not like alone all the time. That's how he makes friends, right? So we're walking to his apartment. He's asking me about New York. I tell him about my comedy career. I tell him why I'm in Rome to do shows. By the way, I was in Rome to do comedy in a meeting room I rented that held 8 people. So if you think this show's uncomfortable, you're wrong. I'm walking with Marco to his apartment. He asked me if I'm dating anyone. I tell him about my partner, my girlfriend. And we're just talking about life. You know, we get to his apartment, and it's like one of the nicest apartments I've ever been in. Like it's up there with the S&M party apartment. Like, it's nice. Okay, it's a nice spot. And the first thing I see is the couch. The couch looks comfortable, and that is what I'm into. You got a comfortable couch. I don't care about anything else. I'm there to sleep. I like it a lot, man. Very comfortable couch. I drop off my bag. Marco makes me a cup of coffee. And we just started talking about life. He talks to me about like what I'm working on and like what I'm working through. And we both have like dysfunctional families. I've only known this dude for like 20 minutes. I'm already starting to know him like he's becoming my best friend in Italy. And Marco's got to go to work, right? So I leave to go sightseeing. Marco goes to work. Marco says, come back at 7 and I'll make you food. And I'm like, that's great. All right, cool. So I go sightseeing, I'm walking around, 7 o'clock comes around, I go back to Marco's apartment, and he made me dinner. We got fresh mozzarella, prosciutto, bottles of wine, right? Something else, but I forgot it, but I don't want to look at my notes, doesn't matter. He made me a nice meal. And we're drinking, we're having a nice conversation about life. And Marco's whole goal right now is to be more present and in the moment, and spontaneous and not being trapped in his brain. I'm like, dude, that's everything I talk about in my comedy. You know, my whole goal right now is to be more present, be more open, be more in the moment. And we're having this beautiful talk. We're drinking wine. It's beautiful, right? And then Marco asked me how I use Couchsurfing, which is the website I found him on. And Couchsurfing is like Airbnb, but for couches, and you can stay on that couch for free, right? And I tell him that, like, with Couchsurfing, I just stay with people that have good reviews, and I like to avoid people that want their guests to be naked. You know, that's something that happens on Couchsurfing, is that people will only let you stay there if you're naked the whole time. And I try to avoid that. And Marco says, so you didn't read my profile. What I forgot to tell you about this dinner is there were candles on the table. There were candles on the table, and one of the other things I noticed about Marco's apartment, besides the comfortable couch, is that he has 5 locks on his front door. Now, when I got there, I asked Marco, I'm like, hey man, is this standard in every apartment in this building? Does every apartment in this building have 5 locks on the front door? And Marco said, and I quote, no. But the couch was comfortable. I didn't know anyone else in Rome, so I'm like, whatever. I decided to stay. Some people would say that's white male privilege. Some people would say that's stupid. I'd say it's both. So we're having dinner, right? We're having dinner, we're drinking wine, and he says, I prefer my guests be naked. Those are my house rules. And if I had a body like yours, I'd be naked all the time. And if I'm being honest with you, one of the nicest things anyone has ever said about my body. It's like now my girlfriend's like, hey, you're having a good hair day. I'm like, that's all you got? That's it? He says, if I had a body like yours, I'd be naked all the time. I am living with a man I met on Couchsurfing while locked in his apartment in Italy. And I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. I don't think he realized the crazy person he was dealing with. I felt fine. I just kept laughing. I'm not getting naked. I'm not taking my clothes off. And he's like, come on, man. Just take your clothes off. I didn't know what to do. I felt comfortable, but I didn't want Marco to see me naked, especially after all that cheese and bread, you know. I don't want anyone to see me. But he kept asking me. He's like, just take your clothes off. I think you'd be more comfortable and more present if you were naked. And I felt fine, but I didn't know how to get out of the situation. So what did I do? I took another sip of wine and I took my shirt off. I took my shirt off. And I just kept laughing. I kept laughing, shirtless, drinking wine with a stranger locked in his apartment in Italy. I kept my pants on because I have respect for myself. I kept my pants on, but I'm shirtless. And all of a sudden, Marco stops asking me to get naked. He stops talking about me getting naked. And I don't know why. I was kind of disappointed, you know? Like, I didn't feel in danger, but I was kind of disappointed. I'm here shirtless, and then he just goes back to talking about my comedy career. You know? What the fuck, man? I don't know if he was turned off by me, or if he wasn't used to people going along with that. Like, I don't think he was used to someone this crazy just taking their shirt off with a stranger. We just finished the bottle of wine. He goes to his room, I go to the couch, and I sleep like a baby. I sleep very well. There's no better night's sleep than on a night that you don't get assaulted. I think that's true. Like, I felt fine. The next morning, I woke up, I packed up my stuff, and I was about to leave. And Marco saw that I was leaving, and he said, hey, take this. I have 2 of them. I don't need it. I got this power adapter. I left Marco's apartment. Nothing happened, you know? He friended me on Facebook a couple months ago, and I denied it. I denied his friend request. And I feel bad about that. And I was reading his reviews on Couchsurfing, and it turns out he pulls this move a lot. Like I didn't read his reviews well enough, and he makes that move a lot. And but I might stay with him again. You know, the next time I'm in Rome, why not? He has the safest apartment in Rome. He has the front door. You know, he's a safe guy. He might be dead too. Who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of deaths in Italy right now. Next time I'm in Rome, I can charge my phone. Oh wow, it's almost 9 o'clock. Nice. This worked out. Cool. Any like I guess we'll do some questions and like it's a hangout. So any questions?